Shalom. Let me get straight into this lesson. So what I'm going to be doing is breaking down how people think, Lucifer, they hear the word Lucifer, they don't even know what the word means. You've been taught that too. A lot of jakes that's new to waking up, they got that, them remnants of Christianity still in their mind. So we have to break those strongholds down with the truth. So, they'll call him Satan or the devil. And actually, when you go into those words, when you go into the word Satan, it just means adversary. That's not really Satan per se name. The word just means adversary. So that's when you know what words properly mean, it takes the witchcraft of what you've been taught. And that word devil means slanderer. And anybody can be a devil, but it's a particular race of people that is the devil, the Edomites. So let's get into this Lucifer whole fiasco. First off, we're gonna get into this. The Bible don't never describe how so-called Satan, as you know, or the devil look. But where do they get this imagery from and the storyline and all this stuff from? Let's get into it. It says at the very top, it says the Christian image of Satan. Remember, that's not really his name. That word really means adversary. So really in the Bible, it's a mistranslation. The word that should have been there instead of Satan should have been adversary. Okay, so but when our people hear that name Satan and the name devil, what they envision in their mind is a man with a pitchfork, you know, a red jumpsuit on with a gold tee with horns coming out his head, right? Where do they get this imagery from? I'm gonna show you. And let me say this too. At this point, Jake, you ought to be able to keep up with this stuff. We not, you know, I'm just saying if you knew you waking up, you gotta keep up, man. Let's get into this. It says the Christian image of Satan. Remember, Satan means adversary. It's not his personal name, but you've been taught that though. Was largely inspired by the Greek god Pan. Listen up to this. Screenshot it. Watch this lesson 5 times for you to get it. Whatever you got to do. It says incorporating his goat-like features, horns, cloven hooves, tail, and association with wilderness, lust, and terror. It says the root of panic. It says merging with other figures like the Egyptian god Set, red skin. And actually, these Edomites, they paint what you know as Satan and the devil red. That's really talking about them. How ironic is that? But this is the image. Matter of fact, let's go to images. This is what Jake, this is what most people see in their mind, right? Let's go here. So let's deal with this word Lucifer. Because most Christians and people that's unlearned, they think that's talking about who they know as Satan or the devil. Isaiah 14, let me go up to 5. This is why you have to read the whole verse, and don't just go to certain scriptures and take them out of context. Now, once you read up on scriptures and read chapters and, get your education up, you can precept. But that has to be done with the Spirit on you. Isaiah 14:4. It says that thou shalt make up this proverb against the king of Babylon. This ain't talking about ancient Babylon either, right? So the king of Babylon will be these illuminated ones, like the Illuminati. And in particular, would be like the ruler of America, which on face, for face purposes, people say Donald Trump because that's who they see. So he'd be like the king of Babylon, but who's really controlling Donald Trump? The J people, the Illuminati, the Rothschild, the Rockefellers. That's who's really per se the king of Babylon, but it can be applicable to whoever's ruling Babylon as a figure that makes sense. And it's not talking about ancient Babylon again. And this is why you have to understand what the context is. And say, how had the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. So when you read up on stuff, you read the whole chapter, it brings you out of that witchcraft. Isaiah 14:5. It says, the Lord have broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. What is this talking about? The king of Babylon, right? The wicked, who's Esau Edom, the scepter of the rulers. So you get the context. These are talking about humans, not what you know as Satan. Satan is a spirit, right? Let's keep going. Isaiah 14:6. It says, who smote the people in wrath with a continuous stroke. Who smoked the people with wrath? The so-called white man with his debt, his dollar system, his oppression, redlining, going down the list, man. It's vast. It says, he that ruled the nations in anger, like they just did the operation in Venezuela. You can't tell me this ain't Babylon. It says, it's persecuted and none hindered. Let's go to 7. It says, Isaiah 14:7. It says, the whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They bring forth singing into singing. Let's keep going. Let's go down to 12. Let's get straight to the point. You can read up on other stuff in your due time. Salaki. 12. So you got the context, right? It says Isaiah 14:12. It says, matter of fact, let's start here. Isaiah 14:12. And this where a Christian or you've been taught just to go here and take it out of context. It says, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? And what have you been taught is this is talking about, Jake see these visuals in their mind. They see the artwork of Christianity and they see, a pitchfork, a man getting thrown out of heaven, angel, whatever, with other angels, blah, 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 all that. What's that? Lost Paradise Lost. But you got to understand this in a deeper level. It says, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? Now, this ain't talking about the heavenly realm where the Most High is at. That's one thing you got to understand. And I think that's what trips up a lot of people. The word heaven has different meanings depending on the context. O Lucifer. So we're going to see what that word means. It says, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground that didst weaken the nations? This is an earthly men, right? Remember, the context is the king of Babylon. But it's using this poetic language, and that's what Jay get tripped up over because they take everything so literal. So let's go to this word Lucifer first off. 1 second. And this word Lucifer, when you go into the etymology of the word, is a Latin word. First off, you have to understand that. This is supposed to be a Hebrew word there, but it's been translated through so many different languages that the Latin Vulgate, they left the word Lucifer there for the confusion part. Right here, Lucifer. So what does this word properly mean? Let's go back. And this blue letter going to even break it down for you so you can get it. Because the Christians say, oh, that's not talking about that. So we go to the word on Lucifer, going to the Strongs. What does this word mean? It says Lucifer equals light bearer. So that's that Illuminati, the Edomites, Rothschilds, that's that hidden knowledge. That's for, it says shining one. It says morning star. Lucifer. Check this out. This is very important. It says king of Babylon. And they going off with this and Satan. No, it ain't talking about Satan. It says it's talking about the king of Babylon. Right, which this is be talking about America. So let's go to this word Lucifer and get the full context of what this means. Lucifer. It says light bearer. It goes back into Latin. So this word is not even supposed to be there. Right? Remember, this is a Latin word. It's supposed to go back into the Hebrew. Even when you go here, and this word is a trigger word for a lot of people because they don't know what's going on. When you go up, it says root word etymology. It says from H1 984, which goes back into Hebrew, which the word means to shine, right? To be boastful. It means other things, but you get it. It ain't talking about the spiritual demon Satan. Yet when they try to put that in there, because this is going back into Greek mythology, that's where they get this stuff from. A lot of this Christianity is infused, what you have today, with heavy Greek mythology and Roman mythology from the Edomites that brought all this confusion. So this is why you have to analyze these scriptures, properly go through it so you can get the context. So we know this word Lucifer is not, it just means morning star, to shine, right? Isaiah 14 and 13, it says, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven and would exalt my throne above the stars of God, which would be the Israelites, going back into the book of Revelations, the stars. I think I have to go into that another day. But the stars are the Israelites. And I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. Let's go to 14. It says, I will ascend above the heights of clouds. I will be like the Most High. So this is where Christian, again, they think this talking about this spiritual demon Satan because they've been taught this. Let's keep going. It says, yet thou should be brought down to hell, to the size of a pit. So that word hell is another trigger word that's not supposed to be here. This word hell is a relatively new word. I think the word hell was created in the 700 AD, give or take. But it's supposed to be shalah, which means the grave, the ground, stuff like that. To the size of the pit, which that means confinement, captivity. You know what I'm saying? Down low. Let's keep going. It says Isaiah 14 and 6. It says, they that see thee should narrowly look upon thee and consider thee and saying, is this the man? A man. Satan is not of flesh. It says, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? Talking about this system with a military might, what is being facilitated by the J people, which is the Illuminati, and they funneling them orders through who as Donald Trump. Let's keep going. So this cuts that craziness, man. But you can keep reading on, so on and so forth. But it broke it down. That's why I went and read pretty much the whole chapter to you. So you'll know that it's not talking about what you've been taught. I think what happens psychologically when you've been taught something for so long, like when we tell you this not right, you still gonna go to what you've been taught. Because Jake associate the word Lucifer with what they know is the spiritual demon Satan. And this is how Satan, quote unquote, look in their mind. And they go with all these stories. This is how he look with a red, just crazy, man. But this is what our people, this is just, man, they've been so indoctrinated and brainwashed for so many different years. So this is why it's so hard to get them out of this spell. But this only for the elect. The rest of the Israelites not going to wake up. Right, so I had some more stuff I wanted to bring up, but I think I'm going to save it for another lesson. But right here, let's go here. See, this is why they do this, It says right here, the devil is a powerful, you see they got this image right here, the so-called white man. But they got him after the image of Pan, the Greek god. Because that's what they get the image from. The pitchfork comes from the Greek god, I think, Hades, Poseidon, one or the other. Because I did lessons on this. And, right here, it says the devil is a powerful personified spirit of evil, spirit, not a physical man. In many religions, right? Known as Satan in Abrahamic faith, a fallen angel. So that's the lie right there. A fallen angel, that's a lie. Lucifer, see how they create all this? Who attempts humanity into sin, appearing in the culture as a tempter, deceiver, or adversary, often depicted with horns and a tail and a pitchfork. It says comes from Milton's Paradise Lost to modern horror. See, it's just crazy. So nothing but confusion. It's confusion on top. That's how Christianity is. Confusion in another layer of confusion and another. That's why JB so confused. Right. Hopefully this lesson was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rahat, Quadash, Shalom.